At exactly 5:17 local time, the USS Gravely's forward mount came alive with a deep mechanical tremor. Steel shifted. The deck seemed to tighten beneath the sailors' boots as the Caribbean rolled beneath them. Across the destroyer's combat network, one sharp message cut through the silence. Condition 3, set and man all key stations. No one needed further explanation. The situation was already clear. 3 unidentified surface contacts were moving in fast from the southwest. Their speed was increasing and their formation was drawing closer by the second. On the tactical screen, the labels flickered into place. Sierra 1, 2, and 3. Flag of origin, Venezuela. On the bridge, the captain did not raise his voice. He did not need to. His orders moved through the ship with calm precision. Access points were secured. Crews took their positions. Helmets went on. Every station became focused. Below, inside the Combat Information Center, operators tracked the contacts as they closed at nearly 28 knots, bearing 243 and converging quickly. The Gravely's 5-inch mount shifted only a few degrees, but that small movement carried a message powerful enough to be understood without a single shot. Visual confirmation remained limited. The contacts were low-profile craft, most likely fast patrol boats. They showed no heavy signatures, only speed, coordination, and clear purpose. Whoever was guiding them knew exactly how to come close without crossing the final line. The Gravely's electronic warfare suite came online, its sensors spreading across the electromagnetic spectrum. Every signal, every ping, every emission was captured and recorded. The crew had seen pressure tactics before, but not with Caracas this tense, and not this close to the edge of international waters. This time, the order was not simply to wait, it was to show presence. The operations officer leaned over the surface tracking display. The contacts were now inside 12 nautical miles and still closing. "Recommend we mark them as displaying clear intent pending identification," he reported. "Copy," the captain replied. "Maintain course. Defensive stations ready. Hold response." Along the main deck corridor, sailors moved into position with practiced discipline. Load crews checked the heavy feed systems. The close-in defense system began to rotate under radar guidance, its hydraulic drive producing a sharp, rising whine that carried through the steel bulkheads. Every major system was now awake. In training, this kind of fast approach scenario often ended with nervous laughter. But drills do not arrive with national flags on a tactical screen. The combat net crackled again. "Bridge, CIC, contacts accelerating to 29 knots. "Understood," the watch officer answered. "Mark closest point of approach at 4.6 nautical miles. Plot intercept vectors." At the helm, the sailor held the destroyer's heading with absolute focus. The Gravely remained in international waters by less than 3 miles. Any unnecessary turn, any accidental drift could be framed as provocation. On the bridge, binoculars swept the horizon. The bearing was unmistakable. The Venezuelan boats were driving straight toward the Gravely's beam. To military observers, the message behind such a maneuver is simple. "We see you. We are not stepping back." The captain pressed the intercom, his voice steady. "Engineering, maintain full power on the turbines. We may need to maneuver." This was no longer routine, and the USS Gravely was not there by accident. For the past 2 months, U.S. destroyers and Coast Guard cutters have been moving through the southern Caribbean under Operation Sentinel South. On paper, it is a routine maritime security mission, focused on disrupting illegal routes connected to Venezuelan waters. But in practice, the message is far more direct. Washington is watching. Only 4 days earlier, U.S. Navy helicopters had intercepted 2 speedboats suspected of carrying restricted cargo toward Curaçao. One vessel was stopped after ignoring repeated warnings. Caracas quickly described the incident as an act of aggression. The Pentagon framed it as maritime law enforcement. Now Venezuela's Navy appears to be pushing back, testing the narrow space between defense and provocation. The USS Gravely is not an ordinary ship. As an Arleigh Burke-class destroyer, it is one of the most capable surface combatants in the world. At 155 meters long, it carries powerful radar systems able to track more than 100 targets at once. Its Aegis combat system can connect the ship with U.S. and Allied aircraft overhead, turning the destroyer into part of a much larger battlefield network. That overwhelming capability is exactly what makes close encounters like this so dangerous. One misunderstanding, one wrong move, and the situation can climb the ladder of escalation almost instantly. The Venezuelan patrol craft, likely from the Guay class, are fast, small, and lightly armed. They are not built to overpower a destroyer like the Gravely. They are built for pressure, for close approaches, and for forcing the other side to react. Inside U.S. Southern Command, this kind of gray zone encounter has a colder name: controlled friction. It is the kind of friction that can remain political right up until the moment it becomes something else. For the sailors aboard the Gravely, the politics are far away. The immediate concern is less than 10 nautical miles out and closing. Every system that matters is now active. On the foredeck, the 5-inch Mark 45 gun remains in standby, its long barrel fixed toward the southwest. The weapon is capable of reaching targets miles away with precision, but for now, its purpose is presence, not action. Behind it, the Mark 15 phalanx close-in defense system begins to rotate under radar guidance. Sailors know its sound well, a sharp mechanical whine that means the ship's final protective layer is awake. Right now, it is waiting for one bad decision. Inside the Combat Information Center, the Aegis system is doing what it was designed to do, turning scattered information into one clear picture. Radar returns, sonar data, electronic signals, and surface tracks are all fused into a single digital display. Every operator sees the same unsettling details. The bearing, the shrinking distance, the approach angle, the rising speed. The ship's electronic warfare suite, the SLQ-32V3, listens quietly across the spectrum. It searches for the one signal no one wants to see, a targeting radar signature. That would change everything. So far, the spectrum remains clean, but silence does not always mean safety. Above the crew, another layer of awareness is being prepared. The MH-60R Seahawk, known across the Navy as Romeo, is the ship's multi-mission helicopter. It can scan surface vessels, track underwater contacts, and in moments like this, provide the one thing every commander needs before making a critical call: a clear look at what is really coming toward them. On the flight deck, the crew receives the order to prepare for launch. Rotor blades unfold, tie-down chains are removed, hands move quickly across the deck, each motion familiar, practiced, and precise. They have done this routine countless times before. But this morning feels different. The entire ship is only one command away from shifting into a far more serious posture, and everyone aboard understands it. At 0519, the Seahawk rises from the deck, its twin engines cutting through the morning haze. Its call sign is Razor 2-1. The mission is clear: observe, confirm, and keep distance. No unnecessary escalation. As the helicopter banks south, its sensor pod locks onto the 3 Venezuelan patrol boats below. From above, the picture becomes clearer. The craft are small, fast, and moving in a loose V formation. Their wakes slice across the Caribbean, white lines trailing behind them as their engines push hard through the water. Razor 2-1 radios back to the destroyer. Gravely, visual confirmation on 3 hulls. Formation steady. Speed, 28 knots. Inside the helicopter, the sensor operator switches to thermal imaging. Bright shapes appear inside the cabins. Figures at the helm. More movement near midship. Another heat signature aft. Every person aboard those boats appears focused on one thing: the destroyer. The Gravely holds its course. Its SPY-1D radar continues tracking the patrol boats with extreme accuracy. But the crew avoids any step that could be seen as escalation. There is no aggressive lock, no unnecessary signal, no move that would turn a warning into a challenge. Instead, the Romeo circles wide overhead, quiet but unmistakable. The message is simple: the U.S. Navy can see everything. For now, it remains a standoff. But the space between the two sides is shrinking by the minute. By 5:22, the range has closed to 5 nautical miles. That is close enough for the Venezuelan crews to read the Gravely's hull number painted on its steel. Close enough for the sailors aboard the destroyer to feel the tension settle into the air around them. Then the bridge makes the first formal move. Venezuelan naval vessels. This is a United States naval ship operating in international waters. You are closing at high speed. Alter course immediately. Silence follows. Seconds pass slowly, heavy and uncomfortable. Then the Combat Information Center reports again. Lead vessel still increasing speed, 29 knots, range now 4.8 nautical miles. The captain remains calm. Set visible posture. I want all topside systems clearly in view. No escalation. On deck, the close-in defense turrets shift just enough for their barrels to catch the first light of morning. The 5-inch mount holds steady. Nothing fires, nothing locks. But from the perspective of the Venezuelan crews, the message is impossible to miss. We see you. Do not push this further. The silence after the Gravely's broadcast stretches across the water, thick and tense. Then, at last, a voice breaks through the communications net. The reply is sharp, controlled, and heavily accented. This is Venezuelan Navy Patrol. You are operating close to our territorial waters. Identify your mission. The bridge answers without hesitation. Venezuelan naval vessels, this is USS Gravely. We are operating legally in international waters. Maintain safe separation. What happens next is subtle, but important. The Venezuelan boats slow from 28 knots to around 20. But they do not turn away. They hold their formation and begin shadowing the destroyer along its starboard beam. The distance is now only 3.6 nautical miles, close enough to be deliberate, close enough to be dangerous. It is no longer just an approach. It is a message written in movement, speed, and silence. A careful dance at the edge of the line where every turn matters, every signal is studied, and one mistake could change everything. Every sailor aboard the Gravely understood the rule no one had to say out loud. It is far easier to create a crisis than to explain one. That is why the rules of engagement are built into every commander's thinking. Under U.S. Navy procedure, a ship cannot respond with serious force unless there is a clear act of aggression or unmistakable intent to cause harm. A fast approach alone is not enough. Even a radar signal by itself may not be enough unless it is connected to a direct and immediate threat. So the Gravely held steady. Its cameras recorded. Its radar followed every movement with extreme precision. But its most powerful systems remained closed, silent, and controlled. In that moment, restraint became the ship's most important tool. That is the paradox of deterrence. You show strength by proving you do not need to use it. What made the situation even more complicated was geography. The destroyer was operating roughly 14 nautical miles from the Venezuelan coast, outside territorial waters, and within the space the United States recognizes as international. But Caracas sees the area differently. Venezuela claims broader authority under its Bolivarian security zone, a position Washington does not recognize. That disagreement over interpretation is exactly why encounters like this keep happening. Each side believes it is standing on solid ground, while the distance between them keeps getting smaller. Legally, the Gravely's position was clear. For the crew, the priority was even simpler. Do not become tomorrow's headline. One wrong call, one misunderstood radar signal, one nervous reaction on either side, and this encounter could shift from a routine patrol to a full diplomatic crisis in seconds. Then, at 05:34, the pressure finally began to ease. The Venezuelan patrol boats started a slow turn east. There was no farewell over the radio, no final acknowledgement, no dramatic exchange, just a quiet change in direction. The kind of movement that says, without words, the message has already been delivered. The USS Gravely maintained its course and speed, recording every detail of the encounter. Radar tracks, communication attempts, engine readings, system status, and command logs were all preserved and sent to U.S. Southern Command for review. Above the water, Razor 2-1 remained in the air for one final pass. The Seahawk's sensors confirmed that the Venezuelan boats were rejoining formation and moving parallel to the coastline at reduced speed. In Washington, analysts would study the encounter frame by frame. Was it a test of the Gravely's reaction time, a political signal, or a show of pressure after recent U.S. maritime operations had drawn sharp criticism from Caracas? For the sailors aboard the destroyer, the answer did not matter in that moment. They had completed the mission, they had followed the rules, and they had kept a dangerous standoff from crossing the line. This was not a direct clash. It was not a mistake. It was a warning delivered through movement, distance, and silence. And every commander operating in the Caribbean understood the deeper meaning. The next time those same contacts appear on radar, the ending may not be as quiet. At 05:34, the slow withdrawal of the Venezuelan vessels marked the end of the immediate crisis. The USS Gravely maintained its course and speed, but for the crew, the work was far from over. Every second of the encounter was logged in detail. Radar tracks, radio calls, system readings, flight data, and command decisions were all recorded, reviewed, and sent to U.S. Southern Command. Above the water, Razor 2-1 remained in position for a final sweep. The Seahawk confirmed that the Venezuelan patrol boats were rejoining formation and moving parallel to the coastline at reduced speed. Back in Washington, analysts would study the incident frame by frame. The questions were obvious. Was this a test of U.S. response time? Was it a political signal from Caracas? Or was it a direct show of pressure after a week of U.S. maritime security operations had drawn sharp criticism from Venezuela? For the sailors aboard the Gravely, those questions could wait. Their mission had been carried out. The rules of engagement had been followed. And a dangerous standoff had ended without crossing the line. That restraint may feel frustrating in the heat of the moment, but it is also the central paradox of deterrence. You show your strength by proving you do not need to use it. Still, every commander operating in the Caribbean understood what this encounter really was. It was not a direct clash. It was not a random mistake. It was something more calculated, a warning delivered through movement, distance, and timing. Patrol boats do not simply appear near a U.S. destroyer by accident. In this environment, every course change has meaning. Every radio call is measured. Every response and every silence shifts the balance just a little. The confrontation was over, but the quiet chess game continued. The next time those same contacts appear on radar, the ending may not be as calm. Maybe the distance closes faster. Maybe someone misreads a signal. Maybe one side waits too long to turn away. Or maybe this silent pressure finally becomes impossible to ignore. The message sent by the Gravely's steady presence was clear, deliberate, and unmistakable. We see you. Do not push this further. So now, the question goes to you. If you had been in command of the USS Gravely that morning, with 3 fast-moving contacts closing from the side, political pressure rising, and strict rules of engagement limiting every decision, what would you have done? Would you have held course and stayed restrained? Or would you have taken a stronger visible posture? Drop your answer in the comments. I want to know where you stand. And if you want to support the channel directly, consider joining the fleet. You will get loyalty badges, priority replies, and help us bring more maritime stories to the surface. Just head back to the channel page and click Join. Fair winds, sailors. And remember, coffee always tastes better after a close call. I'll see you in the next one.